Barnyard Classroom, A Friend by Marsha L. Jones. The rooster crowed at the beginning of the day. Everyone came running from the barnyard to line up. Everyone except for the pig, who waddled into place. He was last again.
I am the leader. I want to be first in line. Teacher said I could be leader this week,
whined Hammy the pig.
Oh, all right, don't be such a baby. Why make such a big fuss about it?
Complained Packy the rat. He slowly moved behind Hammy. If Packy could not be first, then second would be okay.
Who is making all that noise?
Hooted Mrs. Wise the owl. Mrs. Wise was the teacher.
Who can make a straight line? Scamper, get back in line and stop climbing up that oak tree.
Mrs. Wise commanded. Scamper was the squirrel who was always running, skipping, jumping, and hopping most of the time. Standing still or sitting still was very difficult for Scamper. There were so many things to get into and hopefully find a nut to hide away. Scamper was always on the move, and it was almost impossible for her to stay in one place.
Okay, let's go inside the barn and check in,
said Mrs. Wise. She peered over her glasses and started taking attendance. Calling out their names, she began.
Hammy?
Here.
Hammy, the pig, snorted.
Packy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Packy, the rat, chuckled.
Scamper?
Here, over here, here I am.
Scamper, the squirrel, spoke up rapidly.
Tyson?
Here.
Tyson, the dog, barked.
Bella?
Present.
Bella, the cat, purred. After roll call, Mrs. Wise began teaching.
Our word for the day is friend. Who knows what a friend is?
Tyson eagerly responded, wagging his tail.
A friend is someone who will play with you.
Bella purred.
A friend helps you.
Scamper quickly chattered.
A friend likes to give gifts to their friends. Yes, that's it, gives gifts.
Packy was anxious to answer.
A friend does not call other people names.
Hammy grunted with a low voice.
A friend apologizes and says, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Wise was pleased that everyone knew what being a friend meant. She thanked the class for their participation and dismissed them for recess. Goody, goody, it's recess time. Oh, what fun. Kickball was their favorite game. Packy was a star player. He started the game by kicking the ball and running around all the bases. He made a home run. Tyson was the pitcher rolling the ball, and Bella was the catcher throwing the ball back to the pitcher. Scamper played shortstop and outfield and was all over the place. She quickly ran after the ball no matter where it went. Everything was going just fine until it was Hammy's turn to kick the ball.
Strike one!
Hammy missed the ball. Hammy was so nervous because he wanted to kick the ball, but it was moving too fast.
Strike two!
Hammy missed the ball again. Now Hammy gave a big sigh and stepped back from the plate. Packy could not take it anymore and yelled at Hammy.
Loser! Just kick the ball!
This made Hammy more nervous, and now he could not focus on kicking the ball.
Strike three! You're out!
Now everybody was shouting. Hammy hung his head and slowly walked away. He was really trying to kick the ball and was doing his best. As Hammy was walking away, Packy sneered and called him
Fatso!
Hammy felt so bad, he broke down and cried. When Packy saw Hammy crying, he felt sorry that he called Hammy names and made him cry. The rooster crowed and recess was over. Everybody was running to line up and return to the classroom. Hammy wiped the tears from his eyes and was first in line. Packy was quiet, heading to the back of the line because he felt ashamed. As they entered into the classroom, everyone was excited and chatting about the kickball game.
Okay, class, let's settle down. It's time for math.
Instructs Mrs. Wise.
Who knows how to add?
Hammy raised his hand first. Mrs. Wise gave Hammy an addition problem and he was correct.
Now, who knows how to subtract?
Hammy was first again to raise his hand. Mrs. Wise gave Hammy a subtraction problem, and Hammy was correct again.
Very good, Hammy,
said the teacher.
Okay, who knows how to multiply and divide?
Every time Mrs. Wise asked a question, Hammy's hand shot up, waving eagerly. And each time, he was correct. Hammy was the smartest and the fastest when it came to math and the first one to answer all the problems correctly. It made him feel good about himself and very proud. When it was time for lunch, Packy remembered what happened at recess. He did not mean to make Hammy cry and feel bad. He was thinking about how to be friendly to Hammy because he was sorry for calling him names and wanted to apologize. Packy thought about all the comments that were said about being a friend earlier that morning. The word for the day was friend. Packy thought,
I know how I can apologize to Hammy. I have an idea.
Packy came up with the idea that he would share his pretzel lunch with Hammy. With his sharp, pointed teeth, Packy carefully started biting his pretzel to spell Hammy's name. He chiseled tiny bits off each pretzel one by one. Packy bit out the letter H first, then the letter A. Next, he chiseled the letter M. He continued doing this until he spelled Hammy. Packy carefully placed the pretzels in his hand, then took them over to show Hammy what he had done. Packy hurried over to Hammy and said,
Look, Hammy, I spelled your name with my pretzels. Do you want them for your lunch?
Then he gave the pretzels to Hammy. When Hammy saw his name in the pretzels, he looked at Packy and smiled. Packy smiled back at Hammy and said,
I'm sorry for calling you names and making you cry.
Hammy gladly accepted Packy's apology and quickly gobbled up the pretzels with delight, making little grunting sounds.
Thank you for the pretzels. I liked seeing my name,
said Hammy.
You're welcome,
Smiled Packy.
Want to be friends?
Asked Hammy.
Sure we can be friends,
Answered Packy. When school was out, Packy waited for Hammy and let him line up first in the classroom before going outside. Hammy smiled at Packy and thanked him. As soon as they were outside, they began running, skipping, playing, and laughing together. Friends. Thank you for watching A Friend.